have some introductions and welcome.
No introductions.
Okay. And then public recognitions.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge and recognize that one of our employees has moved on to a new position within the agency, Matt Dwyer, from a compliance officer, to stand and wave everybody, Matt, to enforcement coordinator. And so we think he's going to be a good fit for that position and wanted to make the board aware of that movement.
Thank you. Congratulations, Matt. Good luck in your new job. Meetings were circulated electronically, and if the board has any other any other comments or additions, with none being heard, then we'll accept the board minute meetings from last December. Public comments.
I've received no requests.
Okay. Unfinished business.
No, sir.
None.
No.
Okay. How about new business?
No.
Okay. Moving right along. And committee reports.
They come.
Okay, very good. We're going to turn over to Director Talley now for the director's report.
Thank you. Appreciate it. First of all, Happy New Year to all, to the board and to our guests. I really expect 2020 to provide us with as many, if not more, opportunities for us to do the work that we do, which is to continue to look for opportunities to improve air quality in our community. And so we will just really just continue to do the work that we do. I will like to report out to the board at this time that we hope to fill a remaining vacancy on the board, and so hopefully that name will go before Metro Council in January, and they will be available for the February meeting. So I'll keep you abreast of that. And fortunately, since we are short a few board members today, with the holiday season and all of that since the last board meeting and people going through that and then kind of recovering from the holiday season the first part of January, director's report will be a little short because it just wasn't a lot going on in those last 2 weeks, but there are a few things, as always, that I want to bring to the board's attention. So we will start out with some year-end reporting that we are required to do. The district has completed and submitted its fiscal year 19 air planning agreement for our 105 grant commitments, which are due at the end of the year. And so just so you, a little background on that, the goals outlined in this report by EPA are to deliver real results to provide Americans with clean air, land, and water, and ensure chemical safety. And their primary objective with that funding is to improve air quality and work with states and tribes to accurately measure air quality and to ensure that more Americans are living and working in areas that meet high air quality standards. So, this really is in line with what I think I say often here, which is our work is to each day make sure that the air tomorrow is cleaner than the air is today. So that grant really just helps us facilitate that process. This agreement really just outlines our continued work on the NAC's maintenance and attainment, mobile source programs. There's a lot of discussion in there about our ambient air monitoring, air toxics enforcements, and then emission inventory, just to name a few of the things that are covered in that report. And the format is really pretty simple. The EPA sends us a report and it outlines goals and tasks and activities that the district's required to conduct. And so we provide a response that under that particular goal or task, we agree with it, which we always do. And then we provide them a short update as to our status with that particular goal or task. And it runs through a list of probably 30 or 40 different items that we respond to in that matter. At its heart, it's really just a grant compliance tool for EPA and our 105 funding, just to make sure that we're doing the things that they deem necessary for us to be in compliance to receive that 105 funding, and just, again, a compliance mechanism for them to track the work that we do in that regard. I will also point out to the board that we hope to present in March APCD annual report for 2019. It will be similar in format to the report that we had last year. For board members that were not here last year, you can go to our website, or you can simply Google APCD 2018 annual report, and you can take a look at it for comparison purposes, and kind of know what to expect, and then use it to compare it with the new report. So that's available by Googling or on our website. I want to give you just a quick update on the multi-pollutant stakeholder process. The committee work for that group is fully underway, with most committees meeting twice monthly at this point. You know, as I talk to some of our internal facilitators, I'm pleased to report that most of the meetings have been lively and engaged meetings with good participation across the board. And that's really what it's going to take for us to get some meaningful and successful feedback out of that process. I will also note that those committee meetings are open to the public. You are welcome to attend. Meeting dates are posted on our webpage, or you can request on our webpage to have notices sent to you for those particular meetings. So anyone who's interested can take advantage of that opportunity. As a quick update for our work, our continued work in support of EPA's work on their odor app, which I think is self-explanatory, but also on their OVET system. That work continues to move forward, and we speak about bi-monthly or twice monthly with EPA, just to keep an update. And just to refresh your memory, the odor app is kind of self-explanatory, but the OVET is the Odor VOC Emissions Tracker, and it is a sensor system that combines fence line VOC sensors, an auto GC, and optimized canister sampling to detect and locate fugitive odors, odor-causing VOC emissions. And so the goal is for EPA is to create a system that will aid air quality agencies in identifying odor sources and helping them to inform mitigation strategies to help improve quality of life issues, really, for communities that are impacted by these emissions. So that work continues, and I think it's really going to have some positive results in our ability and in other agencies' ability to address some of those non-life-threatening issues, but those issues that are important to folks in the community nevertheless. So we had the opportunity in a very convoluted way to make a connection with some teachers and students at St. Agnes School. And so these are some 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and a teacher there sent a request to the mayor to discuss an idling ordinance. That request was promptly forwarded to APCD, and so I reached back out to the administration, trying to get a sense and a feel from them, their position on this, how they felt about it. Didn't want to go into that conversation blindly. But it turns out that it really is just a teacher with an environmental focus who was put together with the students. She started with about 6 students 3 years ago. They're up to about 25 students now, and they've been studying environmental issues. And one of the things they did was start an anti-idling program at their school. And it was even further than that. They did a good job of working with Miller Transportation, so they did a presentation to Miller, the importance of not idling on their campus. And the teacher was saying they did such a good job that Miller then used a class to come in and do a presentation to their drivers about the importance of not idling. So they were part of the training program for Miller Transportation, which it then turned to other schools that were not related to this, and it implemented the same anti-idling policy with the other schools that they work with.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Do other transportation companies similar to Miller have programs or guidance or requirements, do you know, on
Some other fleets also have idling policies. Some businesses have policies for idling on their property. Miller Transportation is one of the larger bus transportation fleets. So this was a really great approach by the students to go straight to their transportation provider Miller previously had idling policy for at least one bus depot, but this applies to their drivers and their buses wherever they may be. Jefferson County.
Thank you.
So,
Do you know about like what EMS, does it have to idle for it to be functional?
Often, our understanding and conversations around idling in emergency response vehicles, especially ambulances, they do have onboard equipment that engine is powering. So often it is doing work even though it's not moving the vehicle.
So, to continue that story, so as smart students would do, they quickly realized that if anti-idling is good on our campus, then anti-idling across the community would be even better. And so that started their conversation to want to look at that as a bigger picture. But the long story short is we had a great meeting with the teacher, and it's going to be an opportunity for APCD staff to go out, talk to and interact with the kids, to continue their environmental education. We hope to take them out to one of our monitoring sites for a field trip. We have some staff in our monitoring department that just do a great job of breaking that down and explaining it to them. And so we want to train young minds and hopefully produce some future environmental professionals in the future. This really is kind of the fun part of the job, but it's more than fun, I think, and I think we talk about it often among staff. It's important that we do this kind of work and interact with students. As folks often say, they are our future. All right, just some quick hits for 2020. Our PAMS work, we are ready to proceed, and I am working diligently to get our lease completed for our Cannons Lane site where PAMS will be stationed. That lease is with the Regional Airport Authority, and it is working through, albeit incredibly slowly, through the Metro approval process. But as soon as we get that done, we'll be able to proceed. We are ready to start that implementation of PAMS at that site. And I think I mentioned this before, even though nationally the PAMS implementation has been pushed back, I think even another year, we originally planned to proceed, and we still continue to plan to proceed because we understand the benefits that the PAMS is going to provide to us in ongoing work that we already are undertaking. So it's going to help impact our air toxics analysis. It's going to help with our ozone attainment, understanding our air shed. And so we fully plan to move forward. Hopefully that lease will get signed here in short order, and we can start that implementation and get it up and running. Additionally, and I think I pointed this out before, but it bears repeating. I want to point out that APCD and its in particular our air monitoring staff has been incredibly critical to the equipment that we're using. The Auto GC used in this format is cutting edge technology, and we have been instrumental in getting that equipment and that technology up and running. We've been critical to providing updates to that system and solving problems that they have experienced as they've tried to get it out with our air toxics monitoring. And it's really just going to be a benefit to the rest of the country when they finally come on board, because in fact we will have done a lot of the heavy lifting and work to get that out.
Or one of you?
I think one of the few. I know someone in the Northeast, I think, is using the GC. Is there anyone else that's building it here? Yeah.
There's a handful of agencies that are operating the system, but only just 2 or 3 that have fully implemented for some time.
And is the company fixing that at their own expense, I'm sure, right? Maybe not.
For the most part, if there are technical issues about how the operation of the instrument analyzes the chemicals, they've been really good with customer service on that. There's more than just one vendor.
Okay.
There's several, so I can only speak for the one we use, but there's several types of implementation program.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, as much testing as you can do in the lab, and even some field testing for this kind of equipment, when you actually get it out in the field to do the work that it was intended to do, there will always be issues that arise. And so we've really been working diligently to work through those. kind of in line with that, we plan to begin air toxics monitoring reporting within the next 2 months. I know we've talked about this often, and while even this reporting may not contain the entire suite of emissions that we're taking a look at, I think it's going to cover those that we're most interested in, and I think we're in a position to provide some quality assured confidence level on the data that we'll be producing. And so hope to get that started, and then concurrently with that, we're going to roll out some new tweaks to the air quality board report. And so some new formats, some tweaks to it, some new charts, and we hope that that additional information will be beneficial to the board. And so we'll have an opportunity to come before the board, go through that new report and talk about all the changes that we're making, what additional information we're providing, and how we think that might be helpful for you. The Clearing the Air workshops for 2020 will resume in late spring. As always, I encourage the board and the public to attend these meetings when they have topics of interest to you. And then also remember that we can take this show on the road. So if there are other venues and other audiences on any of the particular topics that are covered in the workshop series, we're more than happy to go somewhere outside of the regularly scheduled meetings to present this information. So I mentioned at the beginning of the board meeting, we really do have a busy year ahead of us, and a lot of the things are continuations from 2019, and as you're well aware of, but we'll be working to complete the multi-blue stakeholder group process. We'll get recommendations from that group. Those recommendations will be used in the resulting development of our ozone attainment strategy. All of this will be forthcoming. Air toxics monitoring will proceed. We'll start to get that data in use to the level of quality where it will be useful, and then we'll have the analysis of that. We'll see what it tells us. It will determine what work we need to do going forward based on that analysis. And then there, of course, will always be all of those things that we sitting in this room don't know are coming down the pipe, but we have to be prepared to address. And so I think 2020 is just going to be a good year in that regard. It's going to be busy, but I think we're going to make a lot of progress in terms of addressing air quality issues in this community. And then lastly, we do have a short presentation this morning from DJ Fountain, who is our industrial compliance supervisor. And this is on Reg 107 in relationship to how it's utilized in our excess emissions report. And we want to talk a little bit about what exactly it is, when do we get that information, and then what do we do with it. And this is really important because this discussion is going to lay the framework for some future board presentations as we look at federal changes to the risk management program, and then how we might respond to those changes, and then how those changes will impact the community's access, and more importantly, their understanding of that environmental information as it comes to them. So we're trying to plug some gaps and some holes in that access and understanding of information to the community related to that. So we'll start with a presentation on the excess emissions report.
I'm going to join DJ on an introductory level. Good morning, everybody. So Keith is absolutely right. We will be updating our risk management program. That is our ABCD Regulation 5.15 later this spring. But ahead of that, we really wanted to come together and talk about Reg 107, which is unrelated, as Steve points out, but has been related by the public as one way for the public to gain information about hazardous materials incidents. These are two different programs run by two different groups of individuals. As many of you know, ABCD is not a first responder. Hazardous materials ordinances are things that are events that occur under the Hazardous Materials Ordinance. It is implemented by MSD, and there are a whole suite of first responders, including our colleague at EMA, who works collaboratively with us through our risk management program when these incidents occur. 107 reports for excess emissions may be involved in hazardous materials incidents. Not every hazardous materials incident will generate a Reg 107 report. Every 107 report isn't a hazardous materials incident. But what we do know, because of social media, is that our community is using our Reg 107 reports as a surrogate for finding out information or trying to do so when a hazardous materials incident may occur in their neighborhood. We have raised this issue with our colleagues at the Emergency Management Agency and elsewhere, and will continue to do so. But as we work through this rulemaking process, we want to kind of bring it to you in chunks. Next month, we'll be bringing you our current risk management program and presentation. Our hope is that at the end of the month, we'll be releasing an advance notice of proposed rulemaking for those revisions to Reg 515. And several of our 30-year workshop series that are available on our website will help guide folks in understanding the various relationships between us and our emergency management teams. So this is our excess emission report. You see it every month. We take those excess emission reports that we receive under 107, we summarize those for the board. As with any of our regulatory program, definitions are key. Some that you may want to keep in mind as I turn this over to my colleague DJ Fountain, who's APCD's Industrial Compliance Supervisor, is that an upset condition is something that's unplanned. It's unexpected, and excess emissions are those that exceed an applicable emission standard. Emission standards are sometimes what you think of. They're a numeric limit. One of the ones we kick around here is that 2.34 pounds per hour for some sort of a particulate standard. But it can be anything, actually, including a work practice. So with that, DJ.
So as Rachel was talking about, the emission standard is that there was potential for excess emissions. Let's see, I want to reverse there.
Did you make sure the board can hear you so we kind of turn it?
Okay, so regulation 107 requires certain notifications to be done. The most important is the initial notification, which has to happen within an hour of possible excess emissions. So obviously this requires a judgment call on companies. In many cases, a company will look at some kind of upset and find that they do not have the potential to have excess emissions and make the call that they do not need to report. Other cases, we do have reports that it turns out upon further analysis there was no excess emissions, and the regulation provides for companies to follow up with that information. So, in addition to that, once the upset condition has stopped, within 2 hours, the company does need to inform us that the process is back to normal operation. At that point, the amount of information the company may be able to provide us could be limited. In addition to the complexity of the system, there are causes and things that may not be clear at the time that the initial report and the final report is done. Also important to note, in some cases, these upsets are so short-term that the equipment or the process is back to normal operation before the 1 hour has elapsed since the upset occurred. Within 15 days of the end of the initial point of the upset, we are due a final report that should also include an analysis of the cause and any measures that might be taken to prevent reoccurrence of the upset condition. In addition, the reg does spell out specifics about the type of information that should be provided to us. If there was a reason why the process could not be shut down, for instance, there was some kind of emergency condition that could be caused by shutting down the process immediately, or there are some ways that emissions might have been more minimized by continuing to operate the process. These are all information that we should receive in the 15-day report that is required by the regulation. talked about some of this. Date and time the event ended. We are looking for specifics, specific equipment, specific processes that are involved in the upset. The important thing that we look at as the regulator is the analysis of the cause of the event. And through this process, we may have follow-on questions. We may ask for more analysis. In many cases, companies' best practices are to provide root cause analysis. And in some cases, we will ask you to provide that if that is something that the company is typically doing. And some of these things are just best practices that a lot of the larger chemical companies are already using. But that is helpful for the district to understand what exactly the situation is and to get the sense of whether or not the company is taking appropriate measures to operate their equipment. As a matter of course, we do have regular contact with the other agencies that might be interested in these types of events. Not, as Rachel mentioned, not all of these events are hazmat. However, some of our other agencies that also regulate these sources may have information about spills or other information that ties into the information that we get from Red 107. So we are in regular contact with agencies such as MSD and the Health Department with sharing information about these different occurrences.
Question. Can you go over again the reporting requirements when an upset condition arises?
So within 1 hour, the company is required to send us a notification. They can do that through phone, fax, or email.
And they have no discretion, they got it before.
The only discretion is that if it is a hazardous materials incident that requires reporting to 911, they may report to 911, and in that event, that 1 hour requirement is extended to a 2 hour notification to us.
Okay. That's really answers my question.
Yeah, so I had submitted 2 of these reports last year, one for an unplanned shutdown, one for a planned shutdown. There were no excess emissions, but where a permit is written, just by shutting down, the control device requires this report. And so, as a responsible environmental professional, to have proof that I submitted this report in a timely manner, I put a read receipt on there. Everybody and their brother is getting these reports that I send air excess of the KY out. I was getting read receipts from the health department, and EMA, and LEPC, and staff members of APCD. I got over 40 read receipts from one report. I think that's a little excessive because, quite frankly, what I was reporting was doing nothing.
Well, we respect that opinion, Corinne, but for us, the more important thing is that if many of these aren't for planned shutdown where there are no excess emissions, that from a public and environmental health protective standpoint, we notify the people who are the first responders, we notify our staff who may have involvement. So, sorry we filled up your inbox, but we're going to take that more protective stand.
I think if every company is submitting these reports and getting several a week, and all these people are getting all these reports several a week, it's going to start to be like the boy who cried wolf, and people are just getting them out. I would think it would be much more effective if you had a core group of a dozen people who could critically evaluate, is this a concern or is this an administrative report? And then the ones that are real events, then we flood those out. But I think it's just...
So you may want to decide to submit your information by fax rather than asking for a return read receipt. But in this case, we have talked to our colleagues, and in this case, for us being overprotective on this one, makes more sense to us. We do get a lot of reports that our companies, because the regulation is written that says it is an excess emission or maybe, many of these are reports that we ultimately find on later analysis did not include an excess emission event. It's intended to be protective of public health and the environment.
And in touching base with our partners at the other agencies, they've not indicated that this has been a burden to them. In a typical week, we may not see any, but we may see one or two, or sometimes if something's going on at the plant that may be out of the ordinary, we may see 4 or 5 in a week. I think over a year's span, I really don't know off the top of my head what the numbers are running, but it hasn't been something where anybody's expressed any kind of issues with filling up the inbox on these. I'm sorry about the read receipt, but the agency's probably going to continue to want to know about this. Stuart?
In your presentation, you guys said that late next month, advance notice of proposed rulemaking, and that's for Reg 519.
515, it's the risk management program.
40 CFR Part 68 R&D requirements.
Right.
Is there going to be any additional requirements or changes to 107, or just changes within that?
Don't anticipate any changes to Reg 107, 515, or
Thank you.
at this point.
Any other questions from the board?
Excuse me. I just want to make sure it's clear, and I think Rachel did a good job of explaining these RMP and 107 are excess emission report are not directly related, but what happens is people who live in the community and live near some of these industries, they'll see firemen respond to something. They'll see other first responders respond to something. And because there are not other reports out there, they'll then look at our excess emission report, hoping that that information about that incident is on there. And so then when they don't see it, they think it hasn't been reported. They think perhaps we're hiding it, not understanding that's not something that's required under that. And so that's why we're trying to make sure that these two different programs mesh well for the community so that they have access to accurate information about what's going on in their community. And they don't feel like someone's hiding the ball or not providing transparency. And the problem is they always come to us and they say, well, you didn't have this in your report. It's not required to be in our report, but that's not information that they fully understand. So we're just trying to get some clarity to that for the community. We're kind of all right, but it's really causing issues out there for folks who live near these industries.
Any other questions? Thank you for the presentation.
Duly reminded and actually missed it. I do want to point out that Metro Parks has now, through our care program, affixed anti-idling stickers to the dashboard of all of their vehicles. And it may not sound like much, but it really is just part of the process of making sure we keep everybody understanding the importance of not idling. And as individuals, we've said this 1,000 times, it may not be like much, but when you look at it in the aggregate, at the number of folks who practice that policy of not idling when it's not necessary, it will start to show improvement in air quality in our community. And so we applaud Metro Parks for just continuing to keep that on the forefront of their staff's mind when they're out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you for the director's report. The air quality enforcement, excess emissions, the complaint investigation reports, and the 2019 lawn care for cleaner air reports are all available on the website. Do we have any questions from the board on any of those reports? Is there anything else that should come before the board today?
I'd like to make one comment though. For the American Lung Association, they're going to have their advocacy day in Frankfurt coming up in February. It's a work day on Thursday, the 13th. So I can forward an email to Rachel with the form, and there's a registration if you wanted to. But you know, if that's something that you're interested in, or other people that you know, they encourage to have a good showing.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thanks for attending today. we'll adjourn this meeting, and the next board meeting is set for Wednesday, February 19th, and this meeting is adjourned.